So a little bit of a surprise, but we got a character teaser trailer from Arc Revo Japan Finals. So with a lot of people saying that probably the next character is going to be Delilah, let's remember one thing, that Guilty Gear players strongly dislike all characters that are not their own. So let's talk about Delilah's big bro Bedman. So first, I want to give a very simplified overview of what type of character Bedman is, and then we're going to look into what are the unique things about his character. Why may people not like playing against this character? So what type of character is Bedman? Bedman is a two-step neutral character. So what I mean is that this character likes doing something to enable something stronger later. In his case, it's the deja vu mechanic, where he leaves a seal behind when he does a special move, and he could do another special move to replay it from a different position. So the way I showed it, pretty basic. Like, he just activates it like that. You can see me move, and you can see him doing the other version of the bed slam. But just to show that he really does leave this behind, I'm gonna have him just walk all the way away and then replay it, and the icon is still there. Now, the opponent can clear this icon by hitting it, or you could wait 420.
Whoa, you're never gonna believe what time it is, man.
421 frames for it to just go away. So with that extremely simple look at what the character does, let's talk about strong points. Let's talk about things that are annoying to fight against when you play against Bedman. So first and foremost, he is new to Guilty Gear. From today's perspective, of course, Bedman, he's been in the game for a long time. Guilty Gear XRD came out in 2014. That's when he was introduced. However, XRD is a legacy fighting game. What do I mean? So XRD is more similar to Guilty Gear XX than XRD is to Guilty Gear Strive, to the point that when I was learning XRD, I actually watched a lot of Guilty Gear XX to learn how to play against returning characters. Characters like Slayer, Johnny, Soul Bad Guy, etc. So the big advantage you have in a legacy game if you played the previous game is you could use way more of your experience in the new game than if you hopped to a new franchise. So for example, going from Guilty Gear XX to Guilty Gear XRD is much easier than going from Guilty Gear XX to Tekken 6 or something. So in Bedman's case, the combination of being a newcomer to the game and also having very unusual tools, to say the least, makes for an annoying matchup to learn, where familiar classics like Kyle or Mei, you would have to just slightly adjust your old strategies as long as your old character is in the game. So next would be just talking about his neutral game in general. So when I summarized the character, I mentioned that he has a two-step neutral game to get his deja vu mechanic out, but as far as a Guilty Gear character, he just has totally unusual movement. While most people will call Soul and Kyle the Shotos of the game, they're like Ryu and Ken. One way we actually describe characters in Arc System Works games are quote-unquote standard characters. So what does that mean? So saying a character is a standard character is that character has many of the common tools given in a common way. So for a game like Guilty Gear, what you would expect is bar slash hitting from a far range, decent ground speed, decent 6p that can be flexible, 2 jumps, 1 air dash, no air dash and into double jump. Nothing too unusual as far as Gatlings either, so just your standard PKSHD, nothing too crazy. Where Bedman has a lot of special rules. So for example, he doesn't have a normal backdash or a normal dash. He has this step dash thing. While his backdash, despite the interesting animation, is a pretty normal backdash, his forward dash actually has a pretty unique ability. So specifically, on the 3rd frame, so very early in this dash, he gets a guard point and can actually counterattack you out of this. On top of the dashes, he has the fastest walk speed in the game. So even though he's not very mobile, moving the traditional Guilty Gear way that you would expect with characters running, backdashing, his walk speed is extremely fast. Keep in mind too then that unlike other characters who have to FD break when they're moving, this is a small cost to move around. Bedman does not really have to worry about this so much because he is not running at you, he's just walking back and forth. Then comes his air dash. So a standard Guilty Gear character, they'll just have this long air dash either going forward or back. So unlike other characters, he has an 8-way dash that he activates from a float. So when you jump and tap up, he'll float for a little bit, and you could put in another input and dash every which way. This makes it pretty hard to anti-air because you have to wait. Like, just because you see him floating up here like this doesn't mean you can anti-air right away. It is quite easy for your anti-air to get baited if you don't time it right. On top of that too, he has other ways to stall in the air, like his bed slam. These movement options, combined with his unusual projectiles like Task A and Deja Vu, make it pretty hard to play neutral against him in a traditional way. One other thing that he has is anti-zoning in his 3, 2, or 1H. These moves are actually so good that they end up nerfing it over time. But if you're familiar with DBFZ, you are familiar with this type of move because Kid Buu has it. Now, neutral aside, the other major thing about this character was definitely Deja Vu itself. Like I said at the beginning, this is his defining mechanic. It's unique to him. And Deja Vu has unique applications in neutral, offense, and combos. So for neutral, it's primarily two things. One, you get unusual angles of control. So what do I mean? So the Deja Vu icon will be where you do the special move. So if I do the bed slam here and I'm up here, I can still activate it from here. This means then both the spot where the seal is and where Bedman is threatening. So I either have to attack the seal directly or come to range to play against Bedman straight up. This poses a unique problem for opponents because he can counterattack you while you try to counter the seals, or use the time that you might spend trying to deal with one to set up another. For offense, he can combine use of Deja Vu and the threat of using Deja Vu to have some pretty unique offensive sequences. And then the last little side note I want to talk about is just because he's a new character and he's unusual, he has a lot of knowledge checks. In this game, Guilty Gear, you do want to learn as much as you can about all the characters so you can have as good of a strategy as you can against them. But some characters compared to others are definitely harder to crack. Usually because you need quite in-depth knowledge on what they are doing to you. And Bedman is one of those characters for sure. Characters like Bedman, Zato, Milia, or Chip are harder to come up with strategies against because you have to learn how to do their thing, as opposed to more quote-unquote normal characters like Soul and Kyle. So these things together bring a pretty unusual playstyle to Guilty Gear. He somewhat slows the pace of the game down. Guilty Gear is generally a pretty fast game, so while his walk speed is pretty fast, you're spending a bunch of time clearing things out of the screen to make sure things don't go out of control, while his tricky movement makes him hard to catch, and if you overextend, you get put in pretty bad situations. I for one actually think the Deja Vu mechanic would translate pretty well into Strive, so I'm looking forward, assuming it actually is Delilah, to seeing how they implement the mechanic in the new game. As usual, if you guys have any questions or comments, definitely feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Like and subscribe if you guys feel like it. I'll see y'all next time. Peace out.